You guys are here. I will read for this. So this is our 31st gathering, which is cool. Smaller group tonight. Obviously, there's no judgment here. Free of judgment zone. Here's a place to express yourself, whatever's on your heart or your mind. The message will be clean and unclean, outward versus inward. The battle continues. I know I can relate to that. And then Nathan will take it from there.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah. So.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, I'll play some strings to meditate.
I only have a little bit of time as always, and you heard the name of my message, Clean and Unclean. The outward versus the inward, the battle continues, and it is a battle because a lot of people try to do things to make themselves look clean or look all cleaned up. And what Jesus is always trying to do is get to the substance, get to, as we talked about, the root issue. My last message before was all about the parable of the sower and how we learned that if you're not deeply rooted in something greater than yourself and the promises of God and His heart for you and forgiveness, then you will produce temporary growth, okay? So this takes place in the book of Mark, chapter 7. I'm going to go really quick. So the Pharisees, which are these law keepers, these Jewish elders, these leaders that are always trying to trick Jesus and attack Him and make people live under the law of Moses, and the teachers of the law had come from Jerusalem and gathered around Jesus, okay? Now they came far from Jerusalem to get to Galilee, and they were on a mission to find fault with Jesus, okay? Notice that your accusers will do anything, travel any distance to get to you and accuse you of something. That's their job. And so they gathered around Jesus. They came from a far distance. They saw some of His disciples, we all know what disciples are, eating food with hands that were defiled. Now notice they say they're defiled. That is unwashed. So basically in the custom of the law at that time, when you didn't wash your hands before you ate a meal, you contaminated the food, you were considered unclean, and then you infected the priest who in turn could not eat the food. Now, they would tithe food as a gift to the priest, and the priest wouldn't touch it. Okay? It was contaminated if you didn't wash your hands. Now, they, the disciples, were always followers of Christ. So they were just doing what Jesus did. Jesus didn't wash His hands before He ate. They were just following Him. And yet they're being accused for breaking the law and being unclean. Now, you can't get cleaner than Jesus Christ. If you ever studied up on Him, He did nothing wrong. There was no fault with Him. And yet, the law is a terrible thing, because when you stick to these certain laws, the laws will always condemn you of something that, they say you did wrong. But, in Jesus' eyes, they were just following Him. So the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat, talking about Yom Kippur, unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding to the traditions of the elders, okay? Those were the leaders of that time, and they always stuck to the traditions. Maybe some of you have family traditions or things that you follow that are good traditions. Maybe you have a tradition for Christmas time. But there are traditions in the religious sect that can actually don't adapt to the time you're in. They don't, apply to now. And they can hurt you because people will judge you. So when they came from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, okay? They observe many other traditions. This isn't the only one they do, such as the washing of cups. Okay, they go into the whole thing. So the Pharisees and the teachers of the law asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders instead of eating their food with defiled hands?" So they're not only asking a question, they're accusing them. So He replied, this is Jesus speaking, "Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. For as it is written," this is what Isaiah prophesied 600 years before the life of Christ. Isaiah was a very powerful prophet, and Jesus is bringing about the words of Isaiah to these people that are accusing him. He said, this is what Isaiah said, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules." And so Jesus is trying to implement a new system. Hey, you guys are so vain. You want to make sure everything looks good according to your traditions. What on the outside gives you the appearance of being clean, but inside in your hearts is dark and dirt and crud that's built up over there, and you're not even listening to God. So he goes on, and Jesus says, you have let go / have broken the commands of God and are holding on to human tradition. You see, the commands of God, the way God was telling them to live, was being overruled by the traditions of man, the laws that were in place at that time. And so these people were, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, they were accusing people of not keeping the traditions when really those people were breaking the commands of God. You see how hypocritical that is? There's so many religious sects out there. I'll give you lists of names of churches and denominations and all kind of different belief systems. And they will make you feel so inadequate because of certain rules that you don't keep. But then deep inside, Jesus is trying to get you through the Father's heart to live more abundantly, to listen to his commandments, which is love your neighbor as yourself and things like that. And so they're really the breakers of the commands of God, but they make it look like you broke the rules of God. You see, they made their laws tantamount to Scripture as opposed to God's commands being the authority for that time, okay? So man's always trying to find a way for you to look good, to look clean, to look good on the outward side, but God's trying to deal with something deeper through what he commands you to do. So he continued, Jesus speaking, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God. You don't listen to what God says in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, right? Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say, talking about the scribes and the Pharisees, if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father and mother to be Corban, I don't want to get into this thing, but Corban means devoted to God, then you no longer let them do anything for their father or mother, okay? So there are people that were using their traditions to say that they should not give their money to their poor father and poor mother and hold on to it themselves. So they would use this as a way to keep all their money and not give it to their father and mother. So he's saying your traditions make it look like you're holding money for God, but your mother and father are not being honored with the gifts and the finances that you could give to them. And so they were always trying to find little ways around the system to try to hold on to the earthly possessions that they had and not obey the commands of God. So Jesus is calling them out, and he says, thus you nullify the word of God and your tradition that you have handed down. And you do many things like that. And whenever someone comes at you with a rule or a law, okay, a tradition of man that they're trying to get you to keep, they don't have God's authority behind them. Remember, it's everything that proceeds out of the mouth of God that's the authority for life. So Jesus, again, Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a person, I want everyone to pay attention to this, nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Okay? Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. All right? So we have a lot of alcoholics in the room. The alcohol was the germ of the disease. It was what you did to numb yourself. But that's not what defiled you. It was the inner life that was happening inside you. And so Jesus is saying, hey, listen, there's nothing out there in the world that you can put into your system. You know, demon possession was very prominent at that time. So people thought you could get possessed by a demon for certain sins that you did. People thought that you've committed wrong acts, that you were not of God. And Jesus is saying, hey, look, there's nothing that goes inside of you from the external, from the outward, that can purify you. It's all internal. And it can't defile you either. It's only what rather comes out of a person that defiles them. So let's dig deeper. After he had left the crowd and entered the house, now keep in mind, the traditional people, they shunned people that were sick in the head, alcoholics, whatever they were. Anybody who didn't look like them or feel like them or talk like they did, they shunned them. They were rejected by these people. All right? And so when you're being rejected by a system of traditions and rules, you'll never experience the love of God. You'll never experience inner healing. And you gotta remember, all the sickness that was happening during that time was the result of the presence of sin and death. Sin came into the world, therefore death came into the world. So people were getting diseases, and all kind of manner of turmoil was coming to them. And it wasn't that they were destroyed people. It was the impact of the world around them that made them sick. So after he left the crowd, he entered the house. His disciples asked him about this parable. Jesus said, I love this, "Are you so dull?" he asked, because don't you get it? Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? Now, there are many people out there that will tell you that things that you put into your body, garbage in, garbage out. Be careful what you watch. And listen, there are principles to be applied to that, and applications where you can result in a better life with watching what you sow and what you reap. But there's a lot of stipulations out there to make you feel like you're closer to God, to be more connected to God. And these people put on such a front and made you feel so disconnected from God that it didn't matter what you did at that time. You could have done everything that they asked, and they still would have found a reason to make you look unworthy. So, don't you see that nothing enters a person outside can defile them? For it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach. Where is the root cause of your pain? Anybody had a stomach ache? It is the worst place to have pain. I hate it. And so Jesus is saying all that stuff, the alcohol, whatever it is, that goes into your stomach and then out of your body. Okay? You get rid of the toxins. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stay in there. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods to be clean. So he basically, Jesus is like defiling the law again, He's overruling it. You've been overruled. So the ceremonial laws, like Yom Kippur and the dietary laws, were given. These were given to Israel to keep them distinct from all the other nations, okay? So there was a reason that they had these traditions. They wanted to be set apart so other nations would recognize them for their greatness, okay? But that's until the Messiah came, Jesus. And then he issued in a new covenant of living. And that's what set them apart. So he went on, and I'm almost done, and then we'll get to the point of this. What comes out of a person is what defiles them, for it is from within. Out of a person's heart comes evil thoughts, sexual deviousness, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. So there is no external spiritual ritual that can be replaced with an inner spiritual reality. There's just nothing that can compare to it. And nothing said in those things that come of your heart is being made to condemn you. Maybe some of you could relate to certain things like that, okay? Everything that you have is a gift from God. Everything that you have. Your sex drive is a gift from God. There's so many parts of the way you live your life that are gifts from God. And He just wants you to not be bound to this certain set of rules that make you feel so outwardly spiritual. He wants to deal with the inward spirituality. I mean, what good is it if I get up here and speak, all this good stuff, and then I go home and I'm by myself and I'm depraved and I'm, weak spiritually and my heart is not content and I'm in fear, okay? I've just put on an appearance for you, to follow the guidelines, but that's not what's serving the root of my existence and who I am. So, back to the thing from Isaiah. This was interesting. Remember he quoted Isaiah, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain, but their teachings are merely human roles." Well, I just want to read you what Isaiah said after that. He said, "Therefore, once more, I will astound these people with wonder upon wonder." So he's saying, if you follow my commands, if you listen to me, and don't pay attention to the commands and the traditions of men, if you just listen to me, I will astound you with wonder upon wonder. The wisdom of the wise will perish. Those people were considered wise religious leaders. The intelligence of the intelligent will vanish. Have people ever made you feel stupid because they've got a bigger education than you, or they went to more years of college, or they got life figured out, or they've got their house in order, right? You've had those kind of people, right? Isaiah is saying, the prophet Isaiah is saying through Jesus Christ, he's saying, hey, listen, you can put the outward stuff on. You can look smart, intelligent, wise. You can put on an air of knowledge so that people come up to you, and you get to tell them everything and, wow them with your great intelligence. All that's going to vanish. The wisdom of the wise will perish. What matters is, are you listening to me? And are you dealing with those things deep in the root of your heart that he wants to come in and just pluck out? All those things that he described, he just wants to pluck out. And he wants to replace them with new arteries flowing with the Holy Spirit of God, so that you can walk around not in condemnation, not in guilt and shame, not feeling like you didn't live up to your mom's standard of living or your daddy's standard of living, or those people that told you your whole life you were dying and going to a place called hell because you did certain things. And you didn't live up to the standard of their life because they were intolerant of failure in themselves, and so they became intolerant of failures in others. See, they sought after to accuse Jesus, and here Jesus is the whole time healing the sick, making the blind see, giving life to the lame, letting the adulterous woman off the hook, and speaking words into people's life, and they were trying to catch him in a fault. When you follow the traditions of man, when you listen to the laws and the rules that are out there in the religious sect, you will find yourself being intolerant of people's failure. And you will become a judge of people. And you will walk around with, what are those things called? With the Gavin. And anytime someone does something, you go, nope, boom, nope, throw him away, lock him away, throw him in jail, he's done. And you'll start sending people to jail. And you'll put them in a prison. And Jesus' whole ministry is setting people free, and people hate freedom. They hate freedom. Let me rephrase that. Religious people hate freedom. They hate freedom in you because they have done so well to preserve their tradition. The Apostle Paul said this. He said, beware of the vain traditions of man, for they knock out, they block the message of Jesus Christ. And what is the message of the gospel? Jesus in you, the hope of glory. You're to walk around with this marvelous hope. If what goes in your body, according to the legal people, defiles you, then Jesus said it's what comes out of a man that's important. And when Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, maybe you heard the story in the scriptures, when he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, the devil came to him and started to tempt him. This was the temptation of Jesus Christ. And what started happening? What's the first question he asked him? He said, oh, you must be hungry 40 days. Why don't you turn that into a loaf of bread? And Jesus said this. He replied to the enemy, the devil, the enemy of your souls. He said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. See, the devil was trying to do what these religious leaders were trying to do. He was trying to get him to hold on to external food. Okay? Something that could go in his body and out. But Jesus is saying, hey, the substance of my hunger is going to be met by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So what are you putting into your body that defiles you? Unbelief? Lies that have been told to you? Fear-mongering? A lie of the mind? That's all being put into your body. But Jesus said that can't defile you. It's what comes out of a man that defiles him. So what should you be speaking? You should be speaking words of faith. You should be confirming what Jesus said about you. You should be saying what the Father has in plan and store for you, and the promises that we read later. You should be speaking all of that. Because only then will you be fulfilled in that hunger in your soul. Only then will your heart be put at rest. And no one, even though they can hurt you a little bit, and we're all emotional, sensitive creatures, at least I am, they can hurt you, but they can't destroy you. Because you're not defiled. There's nothing defiled about Jesus Christ. Nothing in him will ever defile you. It will only bring you joy. It'll only bring you to that place that no one can hurt you. This was fascinating too, and I'll really close with this. A lot of the same problems that existed now exist, today. There are many groups and, religious groups that have their biblical views. And to violate them when you disobey what they say on their biblical views, and we're watching a political debate right now with the President of the United States, it means criticism or expulsion. So if you don't believe what they believe, based on their biblical views, they're going to reject you and throw you out of the church. They're going to excommunicate you. You don't believe the traditions of men. You don't believe their views from the group. But some of these views are just applications, and are not actually what the Bible teaches. Okay? So we get back into this whole big battle. Right versus wrong. The traditions of men, the laws of Moses, and people work so hard to preserve their outward appearance. Okay, let's just be honest. I'm going to use I statements. We've all done it. We put on a certain air about ourselves to look good in front of other people. Why? Because we didn't want them to reject us. We didn't want them to excommunicate us. We didn't want them to throw us out of the group. And never once, if you read about the life of Christ, did he ever throw anyone out of his group for being defiled. Not one person did he excommunicate. He always said, hey, pick up your bed and walk. Come follow me. You're a fisherman. You're an outcast. You're a tax collector. You're a hooker. Get up. Follow me. All right? And people are going to get mad at you, because you're not following the same sect of rules that they're following. But who cares? Justin posted something about Bernie Sanders the other day. He said, we're meant to follow Jesus Christ, not Christians. All right? And what a model we have for living here. What a way to live, undefiled. And I just want to say this. Anytime somebody rejects you and says that that's love, that is such a load of dung. You should never feel rejected by the Word of God. Anytime someone preaches at you and you feel condemnation, that's the traditions of man. It has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. Jesus, the anointing of Jesus Christ, is the burden-removing, yoke-removing power of the living God. So anytime you hear a message that isn't full of lifting and having your burden removed, you just bought into the traditions of man. There's 686 laws of Moses. There are traditions in the Jewish culture. There's books upon books of them. And you can do everything. Is anybody else in here a people pleaser? I've always been a people pleaser. Because why? I've always wanted people to like me. Because if they didn't like me, then I think there's something wrong with me. And then I'd believe what they thought about me. And like Russ says, what you think about me is the last thing on my mind. And that's how we should be living. Okay? Because certain organizations within the faith, they will accept you by the appearance that you put on. But man, when you expose what's hidden in their heart, all of those things come out and has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. So if the battle continues, and if it's always going to be the outward versus the inward, or you're clean or you're unclean, and I don't want to sit by you because you're going to taint my view of God, remember, everywhere you go, that there's nothing on the outward that you put into your body that can defile. There's no kind of junk that you put into your system. It may hurt you physically. You may have to go to the ER. You may have to get a detox. But there's nothing that can defile you worse than what's hidden in your heart. If what's hidden in your heart isn't the words of the living God through his Son, Jesus Christ, and the power that they exude through faith, then you will be speaking yourself into an unclean place. Stay in the place of the inward. And let him into those places where nobody else is allowed to go, those secret places where maybe you were ashamed because you felt unclean. Let him touch you with his cleanliness so that he can put into your body what should be coming out of there. And what should be coming out of there? Life, abundance, prosperity, optimism, healing, growth, joy. And you should be able to infect people with what comes out of your body, not turn them off. And that's all I got to say.
First, well, my name's Jose, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jose.
I want to apologize because I know that I always leave early. And the reason is my wife and I were working things out, and I really want to be responsible to my family, and also I want to be responsible to mine. So I have to find this balance, and things are working out. But I told her that I was going to get home as soon as I can, and so I'm going to keep my word to her and leave early. But I really enjoy the message because it was talking about separation, I think, and like all these rules and everything would like keep people apart, and that's what kept me away from God. Was like, you know, I thought I had to be a certain way. I remember homie used to say too, like, because I had like uncles that got saved and they would come around, and I remember homie saying, well, when I get ready, then I'll come to God when I'm ready, or when I'm straight, when I'm not getting high on
Right.
you know, when I don't cuss no more. I even heard homie say that. And it's because of these, you know, it's because of, you know, modern day Pharisees. And, you know, like now, like, and what I got from the message is like, I think relationships is what brings us closer to God. And what I've been learning, like, in the big book is like, it's trip, because recently, like these past few weeks, I've just been seeing this book, and the words in this book has brought me closer to God. It's been all about God. Like every time I read something, there's like it's about God, you know, and like making my relationship or making my will line up with God's will, and that's something that I didn't I didn't know that that's what that book was all about, and it's just amazing because so the beautiful thing about this is that like what it says too, and what the message spoke out to me is like talk is cheap. Kind of like I can sit here and I can come in and Russell asking me like, how you doing? You know, how's everything going? And I could tell him, hey homie, you know, everything's good and I'm straight and praise God and then I can go back home and or you can ask my wife and she can tell you this fool's fucking tripping over here, you know. But that's not the case right now, and thanks be to God for that. So I'm at work, and I work with a lot of bunch of dudes that are either ex-gang members or they're still gangbang, especially the young ones. And I'm on maintenance, so I clean toilets, I wash windows, and I had to clean out a closet the other day. And there's these two cats, and I'm gonna be straight up, I don't like them, you know. I don't like their get down. I can tell they still want to ask me where I'm from. They want to hit me up. So I had to move some backpacks out of this hallway closet, and I'm cleaning the closet out. And they're not even helping me. They're supposed to be helping me, but they're not. So I just shook that off, like, all right, I'll do it myself, I'm not tripping. But then one of them was all, hey, homie, don't touch my backpack. And I was like, hey, G, the supervisor said that we have to get everything out of here. Like, I have to move it. I told him, I'm moving my backpack out of here. And he's like, F Robert, homie. And that's the supervisor. And I'm like, look, I apologize, homie, but I have to move this backpack. And I moved the backpack. And then my mind went there, like, man, fuck this fool, man. I don't even think this cat could see me from the shoulders. And my mind was just like, and then I started like, everything he did bothered me. And today I had the opportunity to help this cat. So we get off of work, and I'm leaving, I'm walking in my car, and he comes up out of nowhere, he's like, hey G, which way are you going? I told him, I'm going to South LA. And I go, why, what's up? He goes, because I kind of need a ride, and I live in South Central. And I wanted to tell him, nah, homie, like, you know what I mean? Straight up, no, you didn't want me touching your backpack, so you don't get up in my car. But immediately I thought about God, and I thought about having the opportunity to be of service, and I told him, all right, where you stay? And then he told me that he got jumped the last time he took the train. And I was like, man, I don't want to see this guy get caught up, you know. Look at how God worked everything out. Wow. I really didn't want to take the guy, but at the same time, I didn't want to leave him hanging because I know that it was an opportunity for me to do something good. So I told him, all right, we start walking to my car, and I'm like, okay, so I got to go down Santa Fe, but I live on this side. And then that's kind of like, if I go to South Central, that's kind of out of the way for me too, but let's figure something out, you know? Maybe I could take it like halfway. And we're talking, and I have a cousin that works there, like a third cousin, whatever, and he's right there. He's like, hey, what's up, cousin? I'm like, hey, which way are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going south. I'm like, man, perfect. I asked him, can you do me a favor and take this cat? So I didn't even have to like have the dude in the car with me. Like indirectly, I helped this dude out because my cousin was like, "Was it for you?" I'm like, "It's for me. Don't do him a favor. He got jumped the other day." And he's like, "All right, I'll take him." And it's just like it worked out. And this is like somebody that I would have never thought about helping before.
Yeah.
So what I don't say all that to be like, oh, look at Jose's doing so great. But I say all that because it's like I have to be like I want to be honest, and and I feel like that's what the message is about. The message, and like it's the same thing. Like where Russell could be like, oh, well, I'm always helping Jose, and I'm here for him, but he really is here for me. You feel me? Adam could say the same thing, but we really do have that relationship. It's like it's not this. There's no margins, like, and I feel like that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
I feel like the relationships are important, and the relationships teach us about God's love, and they teach us about who God is. I feel like when we begin to stand on these margins, the margins no longer exist. So there's no more like me thinking, oh, I'm less than or I'm better than, like, because I could easily thought, oh, I'm better than this cat because he's still on that gangbanging trip, but I'm not. This cat's struggling just like I was once struggling. You know what I'm saying? And I'm no better than him. And the message was powerful, man. Because I think that's what it's about. It's not about this. It's about really like I love God.
That's right.
I want to have a relationship with God. What am I willing to do to show that?
That's right.
I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to help whoever I can. An old lady across the street. Whatever I can do. My actions are going to speak louder than my words.
That's
basically. Right. And it's because it's easy to do that. It's easy to say, I heard at a meeting the other night, this cat gets up there, and it was, man, he didn't even say much. All he did, he got up there, he goes, I can get behind this podium, and anybody can get behind this podium and talk about what they're doing on a daily basis to stay sober and how great their recovery is. But he said, if you want to know the truth about me, he said, I want you to ask my wife and ask my kids what kind of man I am. He said, and they're the ones that are going to tell you the truth.
Wow.
Because I can come to these meetings and I can say, oh, I'm this and I'm that and I'm so great. But my wife and my kids are going to tell you the type of man that I am. Because that's where it's at. It's in the home, it's at work with me, it's at the house. I have 5 kids. So I thought about that and I'm like, man, what kind of man do I want my kids to say? And that's what I'm trying to do right now. It's like, so when my kids start tripping, I start calming down and I go, you know what kind of man do I want them to say that I am?
Wow.
And I had an amazing like last couple of weeks, and it's only because that I want more of God. It's only because that I need more of God, and I want God to show me how I'm supposed to live, and no longer like do I want to like be condemned by my own mind, my past, or anything else. I want to live in this moment, and I want to enjoy people, dog. Like I really do, and I want to trust people too. Like that's another thing because I never trusted anybody, and I want to begin to trust people so that people can trust me. And I'm really grateful for this meeting. I love it. I feel good when I come here. And when I walked in here, it was like I felt so great. And I love you guys, and I'm thankful.
Love you too, man. Wow. Thank you. And thanks for being a great welcoming committee. You're so awesome when you come in here. I feel it.
Yes,
It's my wingman.
that's why it's how it works, not why it works.
That's right. That's right.
So in the program.
That's right.
I'm Russell, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Russ.
There's this passage that I always read. It says, all day long the thoughts that occupy my mind, my secret place, as Jesus calls it. I said the secret place.
The secret place.
Are molding my destiny for good or evil. In fact, the truth is that the whole of my life's experience is but the outer expression of my inner thought. Then it says, so in fact, therefore, my life is just the result of the kind of thoughts that I have chosen to hold. That's it. I'm one thought away from alcoholism all the time. Just sits here and waits. So it's just amazing to me because I'm thinking, if you would have bought into that alcoholic thought in the closet, then you would have responded differently, reacted. You guys would have beefed, something would have happened, potentially. And then it would have completely blocked off the potential of you helping this guy. But it was in that thought. It was here. It starts here. It's all that. See, that's what I had. I have to realize this. I have to be reminded of it. That my whole life, it all starts here. You know, and what I choose to listen to, and then that's why we study this book, because it helps me understand what I'm up against and what alcoholism is, how it tries to talk to me, and how it views people, how everything's a threat, and I'm always on guard, and people are out to get me, and I'm always in a rush, nowhere to go, people don't understand me, I can't trust people, all that stuff. But I don't have to live like that today, I can be a free man today. There's so much, man. It was great. I woke up today and I had to do some emails and stuff, but I read the Jesus Calling thing, which I want to read because it's incredible, and did my meditation, and then, I didn't go to a meeting, but I was like, okay, I'm going to meet with Dave, and we're going to go, surfing initially, but then he saw a unit in here, and then I came back down here, and I was like, I was in my red sweatpants, and I was like feeling the vibe, and I was like, oh, it's beautiful, and I was like smelling the roses, and I'm like, this is nice, I had coffee here, I broke, I'm a creature of comfort, or my old character's a creature of comfort, and I say that, it attempts to put me in a little box, I gotta do the same thing every day, but I don't have to live that way. So I chose not to live that way today in the morning, and it's funny, so I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this, so I sit out in the balcony, and I'm out there, and I'm like praising God, and I'm like, and I'm looking at the water, and then the thought comes, man, that tree is really bothering me right there, right? and now I'm going to be honest, I had the awareness that thought was attempting to take my peace, right? And I went with it. I said, let's go with it, right? Because I'm human, I still like to do that sometimes, right? I want to be like, let's roll with this. I'm going to go with this thought. Even though I know this thought is attempting to rob, it's in my secret place, right? My life's but an expression of my inner mind, right? So it's going to steal my peace. It has nothing to do with on the balcony. It now becomes about this tree, because my life is where my attention is, right? So I put my attention onto the tree, and then I'm like, let's just go with this. So then the next thought is like, you know what, I'm going to get this removed. So then I Google LA County, the city, and then I'm on the phone, and then I'm transferred to another, and then I'm talking to employees. Now, on the conversation, I'm being kind, and I'm practicing principles, and I'm talking to people. How much do I have to pay to get it removed? And you have to talk to this supervisor and this, and I spent 20 minutes doing that, right? Now, is that God's will? I don't know. But I was trying to be kind and loving during it. I wasn't completely out of peace, but I was not on the balcony at all, I was, but I wasn't, and I just was laughing at myself, and I was like, wow, man, that's what it does. It can just rob me from anywhere I want, anything I focus on, anything. It's like we're talking about the guy that goes hiking, and he hikes up the trail, and it's a beautiful. I think I told you it's a beautiful trail, and it's the flowers are there, and he's with people that he loves, and he's got water, and the view is ridiculous, and everything's great, but he's got this little pebble in his shoe, right? But he can't, and so he can't enjoy everything around him, because every time he steps around, he feels this little pebble, and all he can think about is, oh, now it's on the top of my foot, now it's on the bottom of my foot, and everyone's trying to talk to him, and the view's right there, and the sun's shining down, but all he can think about is this little pebble in his shoe. That's alcoholism for me. That's self-obsession, right? So it is so subtle, and it attempts to do that in my life. Lately, it's been an outward thing. Lately, it's been a vanity thing that it's been latching onto, and it's incredible how powerful it is. Luckily, I have principles and steps, and I'm aware of it. The awareness is so key, man. Yes. Awareness is life-changing, and that's what's happening to you, Jose. That is incredible to hear. You have this incredible awareness. All the people that I've ever worked with, your awareness is so key, man. I think if nothing else, that awareness will save your life. Will save your life. That little separation. But and so I've been in this place of a little bit of self-obsession on this vanity issue, and it's funny because it's a weird place to know you're in alcoholism, but still be doing it. It's like I know, Russell, you're really looking at this, and by you looking at this, it's magnifying it, but I'm still going to do it anyway, you know? So I'm just trying to go back to the drawing board and pray for willingness, and the first step, which is all about surrender for me, you know? I'm powerless over all that. I got to surrender. I can't do, I'm the wrong, you know? And that's so tough for me, that surrender. It's so tough to fully surrender, to fully let go of everything, of the outward. Because I think if I get the outward perfectly, right, I'll feel that inward is going to be at peace. I think if I get that tree cut down,
That's
right,
good.
that's the delusion.
good.
But see,
Teach
that
it.
deep delusion is the deepest delusion of man, I believe,
that's
you know,
good.
that I can
Good.
wrest satisfaction out of this world if only I manage well. That's page 61. That delusion goes so deep that it's so, I don't even know if I think honestly, but I'm starting to believe that delusion is put there for a purpose to keep me human to go to God. If I didn't have that delusion, then I mean, I would, you know, everything would be great. I would probably be able to manage well. Why would I need God? So
Interesting.
it keeps me humble, you know. I've been at this new place, and it's been a cool place to be. That every one of my character defects or shortcomings are just ways for me to go out to God. That's it. They're there for a reason.
Wow.
I'm not going to judge them as bad anymore because I don't know good or bad. But I know that by me having them, it keeps me in prayer, it keeps me in meditation, and it keeps me seeking. So if I didn't have them, I don't know. What would I even need to go to God? Right? And that's a cool place for me to be in. It takes me away from the negativity and the judgment. You talk about the Gavin, right?
Yeah.
Forget the judgment of others. It's the judgment going on within myself, you know? The Gavin that I have in my own head. Yeah, I mean, I had an amazing trip, incredible trip. Got to be, you know, experience true joy, gratitude, sharing moments with, you know, with my best friends and stuff. And, you know, I got to go to a meeting.
New York?
Walk into a meeting, I walked in, and it was like a soldier veteran meeting, and the same thing happened. I was in the closet, except the closet was my head, and the guy was my head, and it was saying, you know, you're not going to fit in with these. It attempted. You're not going to fit in with these veterans and the soldiers. And I will say this: I don't care what people say. With time and experience, those thoughts, they lose their power, because I was like, come on, there's that old character, there's that alcoholism. So I walked in, there was like 5 people. It attempted to come back. Oh, this meeting's not going to give me what I think it needs to give me. It's all about me, selfishness. That's the real root of my problems. Okay, there it is again. Boom. How can I contribute to the meeting? I'll speak. Got up and spoke. You see? So it's boom, boom, boom. It becomes a practice. It becomes a way of life to alter, you know, the self-centered that is constantly being thrown at me, constantly, because that's the root of my problems, right? Self, all the time. How can you feed me? I go into a relationship. Is she the one for me? Never do I ever go in a relationship. Am I the one for her? Never. It's all, I go in a relationship. That's the first question to all society asks. Are they the one for you? Are they the one for you? What do you mean? How about them? Can I love them well? I don't even think it. We don't think it. Now I'm trying to think it because principles now, you know, we don't think of that stuff. That's not what we think. Everything. I go into a store. Does this store have what I need? I go into the condo. Is this condo good for me? I go into everything. I'm a taker. And it's never enough. And that's the real root of my pain. If I could get rid of that, I'd be Jesus. He didn't, because he was. That's the truth. No, but that's what he but I'll never get rid of that. But that's what he was. He was the self, right? He was the selfless, right? So it keeps me human. But that's what I'm striving for. That's what I'm striving for, right? So anyway, man, I go on and on. Anyway, so I got to be there. We had a great lunch meeting. I know I'm going on a little bit. Anyway, and I'm sitting there, and I just got to listen. And I don't know, you know, who you are speaks so loud that I can barely hear what you're saying. So that's one of my favorite lines. So I'm sitting there, and I guess who I was spoke so loud that the lady next to me started talking to me about her ex-husband being an alcoholic and how she goes to Al-Anon out of nowhere, right? I didn't say anything. I'm just there. And then I got to listen. I didn't have to say, oh, you know what your husband needs to do? He needs to admit complete defeat and practice. No. I just got to listen, and then, you know, it changed the relationship. But anyway, it was a great experience. One thing, let me just read this real quick, because it was an amazing Jesus calling. It's one of my favorite. I think it will help. All right. Trust me and refuse to worry, for I am your strength and song. You are feeling wobbly this morning upon awakening, looking at difficult times looming ahead. I don't know if that's anyone here. It's speaking to me when I wake up. Okay. Measuring them against your own strength. However, they are not today's tasks or even tomorrow. So leave them in the future and come home to the present. So I guess present's home. Okay, so home's present. So where do I want to be? Okay, there's another reminder. Where you will find me, waiting for you. Oh, okay, there's another reminder. Since I am your strength, I can empower you to handle each task as it comes, because I am your song. I give you joy as you work alongside me. Oh, I thought the tree being cut would give me joy. Okay, sorry, I forgot that. Keep bringing your mind back to the present moment. Sorry, I just went to the future right there. Anyway, I'll come back. Among all my creatures, only humans can anticipate future events. This ability is a blessing, but it becomes a curse whenever it is misused. That's all I do is misuse. If you use your magnificent mind to worry about tomorrow, you cloak yourself into dark unbelief. However, when the hope of heaven fills your thoughts, the light of my presence always envelopes you. Though heaven is future, it is also present tense. That's incredible. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's
man.
good.
Come on, man. Though heaven is future, it is also in the present tense.
Yes.
Right?
Amen. That's
The
right.
kingdom of heaven can be here and now.
That's right
Anyway,
now.
that's,
That's
you know,
absolutely
that
right.
was that
Yeah.
state. Anyway.
That's absolutely right.
As you walk in the light with me, you have 1 foot on earth and 1 foot in heaven. And then it gives scriptures. But anyway, so
Yeah.
thanks a lot. All right. Thanks.